While I'm waiting for my rudders to set up for the first day, I'm going to get on to our pulpits. Now, remembering I bought these as second hand and they got some pretty ugly welds on them, and of course PK's modified them. I've changed them to move the seat position. I need to knock down the welds and polish those up. Some of these are absolutely perfect down here. And the entire thing is going to need to be tube polished as well. So I've got a tube polishing tool that fits on the angle grinder, and these welds down here, so there's quite a bit of work to do on these to get them up to spec. They look pretty ugly because they're pretty old, and they do need a lot of work. We found the stainless on them was really ordinary. Some of the bases here, while they're being welded, actually got some hairline cracks in them, so God knows what sort of stainless they used on them back in the 90s. Obviously picked up a bit of plate somewhere and put it on. It was on a Voyage catamaran, so I'm not really sure if they still exist or not. Not really a problem, but they just need to be polished up, and hopefully I can get a good result out of these. To be honest, this is a 40-year-old piece of stainless and come up like brand new. I mean, that is absolutely magic. I'm onto the wax soap, the stainless wax soap, and this is almost mirror finish now. The wardrobe flow coating continues. Pretty endless, isn't it, honey? Yeah, it's like painting lattice work. But you're doing a great job. It's good to get it all done. You're doing a beautiful job. It's good. They're nice and
beautiful, but
no, they're nice and smooth now, nice and white. Loving it. Okay, well, I'm working out here on the helm station. We love our textured finishes so much that Janet has proposed that we do around the combing edge. So I don't know whether that's a great idea, but anyway, I'm doing it. So what I've done, I've actually put a textured edge all the way along here, which is just defining the edge and giving us a really sort of durable and repairable surface. But what I've actually done is continued around here. I'm masking all the way around so that I can actually enact the same thing all the way around this combing here, and it will actually give a little bit of grip when we're coming up and down the stairs, and this is always going to get knocked by rings and whatever else comes up here. So I figure I may as well put the texture on, and that'll blend into the Raptor finish underneath, and it's actually a flow coat finish this. So I'll get this all masked up, and it's going to be a bit of a big one to do, and I'm going to have to put a drop sheet down because I don't want it going all over the doors and the seat and the helm and everything as well. Here we go. Okay, all foamed up. It's pretty ugly, but it won't be. As soon as I give this a trim, I'm going to get a jigsaw, just trim this back to the to close to the edge, and then I can begin the shaping process. That's going to be quite detailed, pretty messy, but yeah, nice to get it to this stage. It's taken me a good week or so just to get to this stage. I've been working on a lot of other projects, but getting this foam on, there's absolutely zero voids in this, no chance of any water ingress, and once it's laminated up, it's going to be just sensational.
Now we're going to take you back to February in 2022 when the hardtop was installed on our cabin top. The decision to cut a large hole around the helm station and create a raised helm was a very difficult one. However, I think it was a good one in this case, in that the helm position would have been low and would have in fact been steering through the saloon windows, which are far too low for me to be able to get good vision. So I then created the staircase there for Janet to be able to stand and reach and actually see across the boat and to be able to see all 4 points of the boat from that position. Obviously, putting a hardtop on top of this is also vital to protect the equipment and also ourselves from sun and weather, and that required the fabrication of a number of supports. Now, PK had actually come down and done a lot of my welding, and I decided to give TIG welding a go. I wouldn't say they were the most beautiful welds, but I am able to polish them out, and what I was able to do was get a bottle of gas and give it a bit of a crack. The first few test pieces were a bit shocking, but I was able to ultimately create something that actually resembled a very, very good weld. And when I look at the polished, finished product, I'm so proud of what I was able to achieve. And not to take anything away from anyone that can properly TIG weld, but I was able to get these hardtop supports completed and fabricated, ready for our new hardtop. Now, this is actually going to take some time, and I'll be doing this over the next few episodes, and hopefully enjoy the build, because it actually came up amazingly.
Okay, a day later, they're welded and polished. And they've come up absolutely beautiful. So you wouldn't even know there was a weld there. There's a couple of little marks on them. I'm not that worried about it. And time to pretty much get these installed. So I've got the uprights in place, and they're almost roughly the right angle that I'm sort of looking for here. They're actually looking really good given that I've welded them and polished them over the last couple of days. But I've got this bar in place here which is indicating the roof line, and I now need to put something up here to give me a bit of an idea what sort of shape I'm going to achieve here. So there's a large piece of cardboard here which actually has a piece of 12mm foam in it that I'm saving for this very job, and then I'm going to have to add bits to it to make it larger because it's bigger than one sheet. It's actually 2.4 meters long by about 1.5 meters wide, so it's a fairly substantial roof, and it needs to be laminated and basically built up and then laminated up in the factory. And then I've got to add in some conduits for electrics. I'm going to run wiring up into this rear stanchion into the center and then down the middle so that I can run light for a compass and for lights, for a red light, and for obviously for cockpit hard top lights. Wow, that's pretty ugly. We'll make it look good, I'm sure. And the other thing we've got is we've made a rounded front on the front of our hard top pattern here, and it's going to have some supporting ribs in it. I think it'll be just perfect once it's all done. I'm thinking seriously about another support in the middle there, just because I guarantee someone's going to sit down on that, and that'll probably be me, and I want to make sure I probably have another support right there in the middle, but I can always do that later on. Just when you thought I was done building stuff and modifying, I've actually started working on our helm station hardtop. I was actually going to leave it until I get the boat on the water, but I've decided that it's better off to get it done now. I don't want to be having to go back and forth with a tender with something the size of this. It's essentially 1680 millimeters by 2400 long, so it's a huge addition to this boat. It is going to protect us from a lot of vertical rainfall, and then I'll install some clears all the way around it, obviously to give me that extra weather protection while we're in adverse conditions. And obviously it's going to protect all of our helm station as well, the seat and all the electrics and all the stuff that's up in there as well. I am building it for an all-weather exposure. However, everything is waterproof and essentially installed to be waterproofed, but having a roof will certainly change it. Now, this is going to be quite a big job. Tomorrow morning, Janet and I are just going to lay this up with a couple of layers of glass on it just to get it stiff. It is actually going to be one complete sheet and this part here. So I've marked the section here. It's 1680 wide. The sheet's about 1200. And that'll be basically the size of the actual roof itself, and then I'm going to add sides to it. I'm also going to add a window in it, or some sort of a polycarbonate window in the top of it so we can view the sail plan, and it should come out really well. But tomorrow, very important that we get the first couple of layers of glass on the top so that I've got something rigid to work with. Then I'll have to set it up, and I was considering making a mold for it like I did with the big hard top. Like this one's probably about 20% of the size of our major hard top, but to make a mold to make this would just be a nightmare, and it'd be extra work, not worth it. Better off to just make one, fabricate it, fair it, and then just paint it, obviously flow coat it with the flow coat as I've done with the whole back of the boat. Building stuff out of foam is not that hard. You just got to make sure you get the structure right, and within this there's going to be conduits for lighting, to run a compass, which I'll potentially have up in the roof itself facing down rather than on the helm itself, because if I have it down on the actual helm, there's a good chance that the magnetism of all the devices that are there is going to affect it. So if I have it up high, there's a good chance it will actually function effectively. Manual compass, pretty essential on a boat, probably more important than all the electric crap we're putting on it. Try to keep your hand, put one hand under that. Oh, couldn't have done that on my own. I finished laying up the top of our hard top for our helm station, and I thought I've got to make it curve the same way as the actual top of the boat. And I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? Will I get a string right down from there and basically scribe an arc across the top of this piece of foam that I have here? And then I remembered that I had an actual cutout of the hard top. So this piece here is actually a cutout for when I removed the inside of the actual deck, and it just so happens to have the exact same curved profile as the top of our deck where the hard top's actually intersected. So I'm pretty happy to have that. I just laid it over the top and there's my arc. It's a perfect arc. It's the actual exact same profile, in fact match the actual deck top just exactly as I wanted. So I've actually got a lot of work to do on the underside of this hard top before I can flip it over. Very important, I'm going to add some conduiting in it for electrical items such as lights, and I intend to have a compass up in the roof itself. I don't want to have that compass down on the helm station. I want to try to have it above, and so that when we are navigating with the boat we can actually use the compass right just above our eye line, so that we can always view that compass, not looking over the top of it, actually looking into it and beyond, like a long lubber line. And one thing we always taught in diving was extend that lubber line as long as we can, and that will give you a true position on a compass. So this here is going to be pretty simple tomorrow when this all hardens up. It's pretty good now, but it's not quite ready to start working on. Measurements right. Right, so with this template in place, when it was up on the hard top, I actually marked that's the upright, that's the other upright there, and so on and so forth. And then these lines here are where I'm going to run electrical conduit into this hard top. So the side flanges, I've actually decided I'm going to make them about half as thick. So they'll only be about as thick as this guy here, as this hard top flange I've got here, because I'm worried. I always worry when I'm looking out. I know when I paddle with a hat on with a wide brim, and if it has any sort of lip on it, it can be quite disorientating, and it actually, or disorienting, I'm not sure what the word is, but it can lead to headaches, and I tend to get a bit of a headache when I've spent a lot of time paddling out in the ocean on a kayak if I have a brim that sort of dips down. You want to be able to see the horizon and have clear view of the ocean, and if you've got something like this blocking your view, it can lead to some pretty serious headaches. I know guys, in fact I was talking to a fellow the other day, he gets seasick if he has a hat on with a strap around it, and that's really interesting because that seems to be, whether it's psychological or not, I just don't want to have too much of a brow on the front of this boat, particularly because you're going to be spending a lot of time up at the helm looking out at sea, and you don't want the horizon to be disappearing under the hard top too much. You want to be able to sort of have as much vision as possible. So too much of a flange all the way around is really unnecessary. It's really only a drip line for running and just basically for cosmetics really, and obviously for strength. But I think I've got the shape exactly right, and you know, I'm ready to start building this thing, and I'm very excited about it. Okay, so I've got a few givens, and that is this spot right here is one of my uprights. So what I'll do is I'll just put a mark on the fiberglass. You know, I keep saying how much I want to get the boat built, but I do love it when I get into a project like this, because I know that within, you know, a week I'm going to have another hardtop built for the boat, ready for paint, ready for fairing, and ready for flow coating and obviously finishing. And I've got quite a lot I want to do with this. I want to put a window in it so I can see the shape of our sails and keep a monitor on our mast and everything as well. So, you know, I do love getting into a good project, and Janet knows that. It's a frustrator. So if I join these holes together, righto, I've got all my foam blocks sorted. I'm going to hot glue it to it, but I'm also going to epoxy the edges of the foam together so that I can get the framework up, and then tomorrow I can come in and laminate this, get it all laminated together. I'm going to glue the front part on as well, and so once I get all this glued together, I'm going to then start working on the conduit runs and the initial bridging and supporting that's going to go on inside it, which is going to tie the whole thing together with wiring and also structural support, which is going to take a little bit of work, but it's going to look fantastic, I think. Right, that's all in place. That took a bit of work. I had to use screws because the hot glue was just not quite holding it. Probably a little bit of weight, so I whacked in the screw into the foam. It's only very precarious, but as long as I don't bump it, it'll be perfect. By tomorrow morning, that's all going to be rock solid and ready for me to remove all that foam, the little uprights, and then I'll be able to laminate it. I think probably what I might even do is do a little bit of patch laminating, leave it till lunchtime, and then come and remove that foam, because I don't want to disturb the eaves of the actual hard top. So the whole thing's glued on, including the front face, and it's very hard to envisage what this is going to look like, but essentially if you turn that upside down, that's going to be the face of the hard top. And now what I'm planning to do is put in some ribs down here in between the supports and across, and another center one with a light soffit in the middle, so something about there for a light over the helm station, and also for a compass potentially. So there's a lot to be done with this, a lot of fabrication. I'm going to go and cut up some foam and we'll get straight into it.